Ladies and gentlemen, this is Eddie Marcus again, spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people. At times you've heard me say that I'm the voice of God here in America. You've also heard me say recently that I perhaps am the Black Panther. But what more specifically I am is a power of love exercised by the Almighty Creator. And my purpose for talking to you today is to suggest to you that this is time for the change in a failed system. We have to understand that this nation was set up by a bunch of men who were basically failed men. But in formulating this system of government that we ascribe to, they had a few points that were right. Most of those points were rested in the Ten Commandments. We call them the Bill of Rights, the 10 amendments to the Constitution of the United States, beginning with the first one, which gave the people, all of you, the freedom of religion. And what did that freedom of religion mean? It means then, as it does today, that you have the right as an individual to believe in a superpower as you determine. That superpower can be spiritual, or that superpower can be man. Spiritual or man. A power you cannot see, or one that you can see. The other was freedom of the press, so that you as people can understand, while you're not around each and every one of us every day, that there is someone that's watching, someone that's observing, someone that will print what is being said, or today reported on radio or on television, so that you will know the issues of the day, so that you can give it some concern and not be ignorant. The other is the freedom of speech. You have the right to say whatever is in your mind, whatever is in your heart, as long as it does not take away from that of another. That same right. We have the right to assemble, to petition one another against the government for redress, if necessary, of grievances. That is one of the most powerful. But ladies and gentlemen, the rest, when we start talking about beyond the Bill of Rights, those things are progressions that have given us faith as we walk this road of life. But I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, that each of us as human beings have a desire, and that desire, every one of us got it. It's a desire for peace, a desire for prosperity, a desire for happiness, which basically means that each of us want our dream to come true. Now, all of these various ways of thinking will not allow that to happen. So we seek out what is the way that would allow that to happen. Well, as we follow the dictates of men, and when I say dictates of men, I'm talking about men like Buddha, men like Confucius, men like Jesus and others that you talk about here in the United States in the Bible. But I say to you, each one of those men say that they were listening to a power outside of themselves. They weren't listening to another man. And so if it was proper for them not to listen and be guided by the dictates of other men, then so should you be open to the same type of guidance if you are following the dictates of a spiritual God. If you're following the dictates of a man, whether it's Jesus, Buddha, or others in the Bible, then you will follow the dictates of Republicans and Democrats and autocrats and whatever. And they, my friends, cannot liberate you. There is a power that made the earth, and it wasn't man. and all that the earth is about, whether it's above the earth, on the earth, in the earth, seen and unseen, man didn't do that. Jesus, Buddha, Confucius, unseen power did that. And you and I, while we're on the earth, used by a tool to bring forth the physical structure, it is the spirit that is in us that gives us life. And that, my friend, comes from God. Even the ability for human beings to exist here on the planet comes from a spiritual power. A spiritual power, ladies and gentlemen. Some say that humanity began with two people, a man and a woman. Some say must have been more. Maybe two men, maybe two women. Whatever the situation, as the population continued to grow, it had to do with the first. And having to do with the first, it makes us all related. No human being on the face of the earth comes unrelated to the other. We understand that we have a mother and a father. We have siblings, sisters and brothers. And as we can reflect back on that, we have cousins, first cousins, second cousins, third cousins. But we also know that the way that we live in this life, by the time we get past the second cousin, third cousin, we have no connection with these people. And they still are our blood. And we even talk about presidents now who have a 10th cousin of somebody down the line before. An indication that we are all connected. But why do we have such turmoil in the world that we live in today? We have this because we are following the dictates of men instead of the dictates of God. I say to you, it is time for us to change this system. Of all the problems that we have, poverty, crime and violence, terrorism and war, all the dictates of following blindly man. We talk about the American God, which is man. An American God says that if you got the right color, if you have the right association, if you have the right laws, if you have the police and the military to enforce this, and this is what you accept as God. And it doesn't matter whether you got Minister Farrakhan or whether you got Billy Graham or whether you got Osteen or whatever. None of these turn you to the spiritual God. A spiritual God which says that you recognize the Spirit God as the only God. And through that recognition, you recognize the responsibility that we have one unto the other, that we are family, that we do need each other to provide for each other, that which is sustainable for the one, which is sustainable for all, which is common. Food, clothing, shelter, education, healthcare, and all of these other things that's on the side that we have determined that we want to make our lives worthwhile, all come from the Spirit God. And the ability to produce these things through us come from the spiritual God. And we don't have to wonder what to do. In each of us is a desire to do a specific thing. And in doing that specific thing, we find that it's interrelated with that which everyone else does, which allows us to create all of that which we say that is so important to us in such an abundance, because the materials are there, the necessities are there, and the people are there. And one thing that is required is that each of us who have these gifts engage those gifts in a process that causes these things to manifest themselves. That none of us, none of this family would ever be denied any of this. This is the way of the Spirit God. And in so doing, to provide for one another, making sure that none of us are absent these things, is our indication that we have finally recognized that the Spirit God is the only God to follow. We love that God. We love each other. And we protect that God, and we protect each other from any philosophy, any thought, any law, any man, any woman, anything that would come to obstruct that process. Now, we've lost that. And as a consequence, As I said, we got the poverty, we got the crime, the violence, we got the lying, we got the cheating, we got the stealing, and these things to continue to exist because we are constantly maintaining ourselves on a road that's leading us down this path of destruction, straight down into the rabbit hole. My message to you today is that it is time for us to stop that. I've lived almost 70 years. And I have never, ever recognized but one man during my lifetime that even addressed closely to these issues. And that was a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I heard of Gandhi. But these are the ones, my friends, all of the other pastors, all of the other church organizations, all of these people who are following the dictates of men have never given you this. And as a result, we have had, well, we won't talk about what we've had. Let's talk about what we got. We got a president today who feels that his mission to honor those that is held in high esteem, his mission is to take even more of that which you have through taxation and giving it to those that is honored, to cause you to pay more for that which you have made in order to receive it. And at the same time robbing a certain population to the extent that they have to steal, they have to commit crimes, and then put in jail. And the people go along with it. The most recent thing is that we have kids buying guns, going into school, killing other kids. And the parents and the kids are speaking out saying the people have failed us, government has failed us, adults have failed us. And now the kids are trying to speak, but they can't speak with a pure voice because the things that they speak about is dictated and guided by that which they have learned from the parents. The parents who says that it's okay for 99% of the population to raise hell, they don't care. That group that has said it's okay for women's movement to stand up and say we're tired of it, we have no respect for that. The Me Too group that's saying that we're fed up, they're not going anywhere because they're following the dictates of a fake God. Black Lives Matter, fed up, not going to take it anymore, going no place. And so, ladies and gentlemen, when we start talking about our kids being killed, when we start talking about so much that we're not going to take it anymore, you're going to take it some more. Why? Because you're still following the dictates. As you open your mouth and let those sounds come out, you're still spitting out the dictates of men. You have not recognized the truth. No one has been telling you the truth. And those who have spoken the truth before have been killed. And anyone who had dared to tell the truth now, no one is listening to. And so, if the truth be known, if you were told the absolute truth, you would say and you would understand and appreciate that the killing of your children today by children in school is a result of you. Of you, the people, who are led blindly down a rabbit hole to hell. I stand before you to tell you that we got to change this system. We got to make this system accommodating to peace. And when there's peace, there's got to be justice. If there's no justice, then there should never be peace. We got to make sure that each of us engage ourselves so we can say that there is prosperity in abundance to the degree that none of us have to suffer for anything. And in so doing this, my friends, we will be happy. And that happiness is interpreted and translated into our dreams being fulfilled, our dreams being met. And the only way that can happen is if we put away the choices that we have made that allowed us to go down so low that we found ourselves eating out the troughs with hogs and pigs, found ourselves crawling through the grass and on the rocks like snakes. And it gave us a liberation to rise up above that and become human beings as we were created to be, children of the almighty spiritual God, the God of spirit alive in each of us, continuously creating and unfolding. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, what life is all about. I've asked the people of the state of Minnesota to write my name in, and I say write it in because Democrats and Republicans cannot stand what I've just shared with you. They're not for this. But I'm trying to say to you who are to write my name in as the replacement senator from the state of Minnesota in the United States Senate. And I'm not going there to champion what Minnesota, the Democrats, or the Republicans are about. I'm going there to champion what I've just shared with you about. To the Congress, to use my voice to speak to the people of this nation and the people of the world. It's time out for war. It's time out for killing the kids, bombing up buildings with babies in it, bombing up hospitals, and you call yourselves a child of God? You call yourselves being led just because you got thousands in your congregation, lying to them, telling them what you think is true, some of you. Many of you know you're lying, and the people just follow you, when hell is burning all around with the floods, the weather, the wildfires, tornadoes and thunders, everything happening. And no one wants to tell you the truth, because telling you the truth, knowing that you probably are not going to listen. And if you listen in it, the powers that be, the powers of darkness, will kill you. Now, why will the powers of darkness do this? Because the powers of darkness have been so misled that they think they are doing what is right. They think that they're doing what is right. The Round Tables, the Bilderbergs, the Rothschilds, all of these people, Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, Masons, they don't know what the hell they're doing, ladies and gentlemen. They are the author, using you to create this chaos. It's time for it to end. And by the power of the Spirit of God that speaks of peace and prosperity and joy and the fulfillment of your dreams, causing you to engage yourselves to create this peace, this prosperity, this joy and dream fulfillment by your hands, not by an individual's hand, not by a particular party's hand, but by the manifestation of love in the people put there by the Spirit of creation. Better recognize, pay attention, and recognize that love is better than hate. And for those of you who said you're fed up, you don't want to send your kids to school thinking about the troubles and trials and tribulations that they might go through, that they might not come back home, if you're really serious about that, you better start loving somebody else. Not just a few, but all of them. That is the only way. That is the only way you're going to get what you want. And if you try to stand up the way you're standing up today, what you see today is nothing compared to the hell you're going to find yourselves in tomorrow. You have been warned. I want to thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen of the state of Minnesota, I'm asking and I'm looking forward to you to write my name in. You don't have to write it in, but if you're blind. You don't have to write it in if you can't see. You don't have to write it in if you still think that the road that you've been traveling is the proper road. I'll still be here until I'm dead, because that's the only thing I can see right now worth living for, is to share the love of God through me to you. And I do, and I am. Thank you so very much. Bye-bye.